with me, JB. Just let me know if you can hear me in the chat, because I'm going to use some headphones. So I wonder how we're all doing this evening. It is, what time is it here? It is 10:42 in Menorca. So I'm on holiday, but still not an excuse not to give updates and basically let you know what's going on. Let me know in the chat what you think about today. Let me know your feelings in today with the Baleba stuff. I'm just as shocked. If you watched Amma in the press conference, I've kind of got a few bits and bobs I want to talk about that. Where you think we'll finish in the season? I think that's really important to acknowledge all that as well. Yeah, so just let me know. So I wanted to really start off with sort of today, and where that leaves us really in terms of, I guess, where we think we're going to finish. What you think about the Baleba stuff? I think there are some people I've seen today who are kind of that. I think that this may still happen. There is something interesting that has come out about that actually. So we can go through all of that stuff. I don't even know if YouTube's working right now. I hope it is. But it'd be really good if you can let me know in the chat about the Believer stuff, what you think about it. We can go over the season. Got a little bit of time tonight, so we can talk about. It's nice here. You can see the pool behind me. That's sort of nice. It's going to be quite a chilled one tonight. So just let me know if you can hear me as well. So yeah. So where should we start off? Believer today. I'm not going to lie. I was a believer in. I thought it was going to happen. I genuinely believed it was going to happen. I think the people who, like myself, who were in, I think they were right to do so. But what I heard that was interesting today, really, on the Believer stuff, to give you a little update on that, is basically Brighton, what they want, and it is their player, is what they wanted. Labawi Meng, yeah, I know, my friend. I know. It's not great, is it? So where we are, Brighton don't want to sell because they want to bid more next year. That's what it comes down to now. There are two things I've heard on this. So the Believer stuff, number one, is that I thought we would go into it and know what the price was about. They wanted 100 million up front, and we basically said no. So I don't know who's in charge of that and what they thought was going to happen. Offering, 100, it was always going to be about 100 to 115 million, and that's what they wanted. And we walked away from the deal. Pretty much, that's what's starting to sort of come out now, is that we walked away from that deal. Chilip Play says, JB, I know, Chilip, we were wrong on this one, or I was wrong on this one. So if you just joined, it's kind of just going to do a little bit of a sort of update show tonight. And then we think we're going to finish in the season. Do we think we're going to panic buy? What do we think we're going to do? So, Believer today, he's not coming. I've seen a couple of things already that have started to come out. Whereby we've lined him up for next season. We're going to line him up for next season, and he's going to come to us next season. United knew what the price would be. Exactly, Tulip, and that's what I agree with you on as well. Is they knew what the price would be. I thought we must have. Well, I think that. So, what we said on here, and this is what I said, was that I can't imagine Ineos and the football side going into this not knowing what the price was going to be. Right? I criticised Ineos and the football side a lot. I gave them the benefit of the doubt in terms of the deals that they've done. They know we needed a midfielder, and I gave them the benefit of the doubt. And that's what you don't do with Ineos. You don't do with the Glazers. This is what happens in the fan base. You give them an inch and they take a mile. So I don't blame fans for getting excited about this deal. I was quite excited. I genuinely believed that the age and the wage and the price was all going to go. I heard basically, yeah. So there's two things at play here. Next season, you go somewhere else. Exactly. We're not getting in that race next season. If we can't get in the race this season, we're not going to do it next season. So the two things on this, number one was apparently they wanted 100 million up front, and we walked. We were just like, nah. So we walked on that one. And then Brighton don't want to sell him this season because they know they basically wanted a bidding war money this year now, and Brighton were just like, and we were just like, nah. So he'll go for 120 million next season. It's going to be that price. But Brighton want to sell because they know they're going to get a bidding war next season. So United would have done it. Brighton would have done a deal, but we just didn't want to do it. We didn't want to pay the money. Brighton didn't particularly want to sell unless the offer was ridiculous, and we didn't do it. So I think it's a good time now to talk about where we go next. What do we think that we're going to do next? Are we gonna not get a midfielder? Yeah, don't forget to like, favourite, and subscribe. This is what we do. We talk in here logically about stuff. The Baleba stuff. I got it wrong. Well, I wasn't me that did the deal, but ultimately, I on this occasion decided to not back them, but give them the benefit of the doubt, give Ineos on the football side benefit of the doubt, and it wasn't right. I went with Ross Harwood. I went with him. I went with a load of other people, in Diala as well. There's a ton of people out there, and I'm shocked. I am truly shocked. I genuinely thought that this was going to happen. So I genuinely am shocked in the deal. But we have to move on, and we have to move on quickly. So where do we go next? What's the next thing here now? Panic buys. I think if you are going to buy, it's going to be a panic buy. This is what we do every season. The Casemiro one was a panic buy as well. That is what we're going to do. Where do we pivot to next? Maybe Humland's been mentioned. He's going to be north of 70. I think Humland's got the panic buy written all over him. I know people like him, which I get that, but he's got panic buy written all over that. He really has. He's got panic buy written all over that deal. Imagine if you get Humland for 75 to 80 million. And also, what we've got to think about as well is that teams who are going to lose players now are not can't replace them easy. So they're going to need more money because the price effect now is going to increase players, right? So, for example, if Sporting has to replace Humland, say they wanted a midfielder, right? Last week he was 15 million. Next week he's going to be 30 million, just because of the way that the market is now. So the knock-on effect is that if we've got Humland, maybe Sporting might do for 55. They're going to want 70 million now. So we're going to panic buy again. All this talk about from was I gave the football of the doubt on this one, and I shouldn't have, but I don't understand why people do. Don't understand why. Pretty much we've as the message is gone. Anyway, hit the like button. Yeah, get Wharton or Baleba next summer. I think Baleba's done. I think that's gone. We need a midfielder this season. So where we go to panic buy, I don't know. Wharton, I don't think that's possible now. Defensive midfielder, I just don't know. I just don't know where we go on that one. Season wise, so let's talk about the season. So the season pretty much starts tonight. The last thing I saw was Liverpool winning 2-1. I don't know if that's changed now. Liverpool scoring 2 goals, and we get a factor as well with Liverpool as well, right? So the last time I saw it was 2-1, and Bournemouth scored. Okay, they're at Anfield. Okay, you look at the money that Liverpool spent on that team. Okay, Katike scored again, right? But you look at the money that they played in that team, and yes, they'll come good. And I know it's the first game of the season, but the Premier League is so competitive. Brighton have still scored. So you can talk about, they can talk about they spent like £500 million, but we're still dealing with accomplished Premier League teams. So what does that mean for us? So right now, we're looking at a window, right? And if you're going to rate the window as of now, we're going to play Onana. It's pretty much going to be in. I don't think we've got time to keep it. I still think we will do a goalkeeper, possibly, but he's not going to be a number one. And remember what I said on here. This was a couple of weeks ago, and Ornstein said this as well, is that the club have said that if we don't get our business done, any business we don't get done in this window, we'll get it done in the next window. That was said about a month ago, and we needed a striker. Did we need 2 number 10s? Probably not, but that's where we are. So you have to look at the transfer window as a whole. As I've said, I scored it low. So with Baleba, it would have been a 6.5 at a push. Right now, we're barely pushing. We're barely pushing a 5. Okay, we've got Shesko up front, and Burma, Kenya. It's just not enough. You look at Liverpool, pretty much gone and got another defender today, a young defender who's going to go into that team, and we've still got most of the team that finished 15th last season. And we can talk about what Amarin said today as well, which is scary, which I think is really, really scary. What Amarin said today. This is why I said in Burma was a luxury signing, and we needed a CM and a keeper. You did say that, Chile. One again, legend of the chat. You did say that as well. So now this is where, when we were talking weeks ago about this stuff, and I was saying, we'll talk about this when it comes to the start of the season. We'll talk about this now, and this is what's happening now. Is that what we're seeing is what some of you said. We're seeing some of the things that I've said, and this is now we're going to see the trueness of people who are, and I get it. This is not a dig at anybody, because you can only go with the information that you've got at the time. And what's coming true is pretty much what we've spoken about on here. Some of my fears that I said on here. What's clear is we need a centre midfield and a goalkeeper. We may not get a goalkeeper, and we may just about get a centre midfielder. Is that enough? No, it's not. But then we've got to flip it round, and then we've got to talk about the season. Okay, so I'm still hammering in. I think Amarin still needs a season. 100%. He still needs a season. And one of the things I did say is I didn't want to see Amarin sacked. Okay, and if he is sacked, one of my mantras, or one of the things that I do say, is that if Amarin's sacked, I want him sacked because of the things he's done. So he's got this system, right? Amarin plays a system, and he's going to basically persevere with this three at the back, wing backs, 2 number 10s, 2 midfielders, and a striker up top, right? So perfectly fine. I think that if you're looking at the in isolation, if we're looking at the front 3, I think the transfer window for those front 3 maybe pushing an 8. Okay, and we'll go with some of the comments that he said as well about that midfield position and Europe and whatever else. But if some of you get your wish and Amarin has a terrible start to the season, because I need to stress this enough, the players he has finished 15th last season. Whether we like it or not, that's what happens. Luke Shaw's been playing a lot, Delo's been playing a lot, and this is the team that we're going to have to work with. This is the team we're still going to have for next season. And Arnold's in goal. But if Amarin has a terrible start, and I'm talking like if he gets pasted against Arsenal, which I don't think he will, and we can come to that why that's important in the press conference as well. And if he loses these games, now I originally predicted 8 from 8. Okay, so I'm going to have to now go back, because the videos that I did, look back on it, and I was talking about with Baleba and keeping, and maybe then we get 12 from 8 or whatever it is that I said. And now Baleba's not here. It's a huge impact on the team, not a goalkeeper. So I'm going to have to revert back and say I think we get 8 from 8. We possibly get 10 from 8. Then Amorim is in trouble. Now, I want to give him the season. I'm not going to be a hypocrite just because we haven't got players in. I've already said that I want the manager in. Okay? But, and I think people on here have actually made some really good points about the manager. So I kept Emery at Villa, right? Emery at Villa, and this is where I've got to be fair and even-handed on the things that I say. So I want Amorim to stay. I want Amorim to be sacked and not have an excuse. So what I mean is, he could say, he's not been given all his players. He's been given 3 players. It's still not his team. Train Kobe Manu in defensive role, boost physicality. I agree with you, mate. I agree. He needs to do something different in his team, but I'll come back to that comment because it's going to link in with what I'm going to say now, right? So Emery came in mid-season and basically turned that team around, okay? But Amorim's come in, and one of the red flags that I had was that what's he done to this team? He hasn't really improved this team that much. Is it tactically? I don't know. But I worry about Amorim now. I worry about, I want to give him the rest of the season, but is he going to give people like Kobe? Can he improve Kobe? Can he improve, the lots of these younger players? Is Amas going to come into the team? So Kone, I don't know what's going on with him, but forget Kone for like the time being because that is just not going to happen. Collier's gone, so he's basically left with Casemiro. He's left with Kone. He's left with Ugarte. One of the scary things today that was said by him, and again, these are the red flags that I'm talking about, and these players are going to get him sacked. That Mason Mount can play in the midfield. And whether he's referring to that number 8 role or that number 6 role, he's saying that Mason Mount could be cover for the midfield role. That terrifies me. Mason Mount's barely been fit for 2 years. It's terrifying. And let's talk about what he said. And I'll go over it. I can't really see anything because I'm on the phone, so I can't really give you word for word. So basically, they were talking about the season ahead, and he's already saying that the aim is European football. At the end of the day, he has been given 200 million, so you need to demand 4th or 5th. That's what you need to demand to do. How Amorim's going to do that this season is through him. He's not got the play. He's not got the pivot. The defence is fine, but Amorim's going to have to show his skill now with these players. Midfield wise, I don't know if that's going to happen. If it doesn't happen, then Amorim's going to have to live and die on this squad. I'm happy we did not get Baleba. Bloody 120 million for someone unknown. Better by Humland than Stiller along with the keeper. Shivram, you're becoming a legend of the chat, mate, and this is what you said a load of times as well, my friend. I think if we were to get a midfielder and a goalkeeper, I would agree with you. If we didn't get Baleba, which we're not going to get Baleba now, if we pivot and get a good midfielder and a goalkeeper, then that will dampen the blow slightly, I think. But we need to get a good midfielder. But the problem is we're going to overpay. If you thought 120 million was bad, we could get stung for something like 80 million for like Humland. Like Lisbon now are going to want massive money. They're going to want massive money for a player now because they're going to have to replace that player, right? So that's sort of where we are now. So Amorim, the conference today, basically talking about European football, but he's already tempering and he's already saying that it's going to be a difficult season. He's already saying it's going to be a difficult season. He's already saying that we're going to struggle in some games. Amorim's already alluding to this fact already. And I'm not going to lie, as much as I am Amorim I'm getting frustrated with him at the moment. Big up to Danny B, legend of the chat. So the press conference today, I was getting really frustrated with him. I like him. I want him to do well, but he keeps bringing these excuses out. Now, as I've said, Emery came into Villa midway through a season, and I think Mark Harris has said this in the chat, another legend of the chat, and he's even said that Emery's come into Villa, and you look at what he did there with a lesser squad, and he did some good things there. Now, Emery's come into this squad. He's had a whole of a pretty much like the whole of a season. He's had a pre-season with these players, and he's been given 200 million. He didn't need to buy 2 number 10s, but that's what he's asked for. He's got a striker. You know, he needs to deliver 5th. You know, that's what he needs to do. But whether or not we will finish 5th in the European places, that's what we need to do. If that's what his aim is for this season. He's 50 million only. Shivram still is cheap as well, and then we can go for a desired duo. Shivram, I don't disagree, mate. I think last week Humland would be 50. I'm not gonna disagree with you. But we're talking start of the season. They're starting their season. He's going to go up. So I think the bidding's going to start at 60. And is that too much? We're going to overpay. And as I said, as we've all been saying and talking before we started with all these player stuff, is that we've got to be careful with Ineos. And it's ultimately the football side. The football side reckon that they had a plan in April, right? And many people who came on the stream basically said, Marine, blessed, hi my friend. There were many people who came on the stream and said, you know, this was their plan the whole long, etc. But as the time is going forward, it's not the plan, is it? Again, they had a plan, but Akubaka Idris, I'm sorry if I've pronounced your name wrong, my friend. As you know, here I'm terrible with names. What have we got in here? Danny B, yeah, just getting from work, digesting the Baleba news. It was all spin from Spinios. What I think, and I try to remember what I said on it, and then you can correct me if I'm wrong. So I think what we said was, one of the things we said was, or the things that I said was that I don't think that the football side of Ineos is going to be so stupid enough to go into the deal not knowing what the price was, right? So our reports coming out today that they got quoted 100 million up front. That's what they wanted. That's what the price was with add-ons, right? And they bolted. Like, so again, I don't disagree with you, Danny B. Could it be spin? Could it have been spin to sell shirts? Don't put anything past these people. Don't put anything past them. And I'm disappointed with myself more than anything else, right? I'm disappointed with myself because I let myself believe for a second or two that Ineos were going to do something different. I'm going to do something different. I let my heart rule my head for a second on this deal, and the whole time I've been Ineos football has not changed. They do what they've always done, and this is what we are again, you know. But I can't flip flop from side to side. This is why I was always, for me, the window is always going to be a low window because they're not doing themselves. Okay, we can talk about that as well. What's it say? Just make a proper bid, bunch of frauds. Exactly. Baleba is good, but the price tag's too high. I think he's worth 55. I guess a player's worth what you think they're worth, right? Brighton seem to think he's worth 100 million. I think he's going to go for over 100 million next year. Is he worth 55? Probably was last season when they bought him. I can't remember how much they bought from him. I think he was their record signing, wasn't he? But you know, he's going to be worth north of that, my friend. So yeah, 55 million. But he's going to go for 100. 100's too much to start with. At least Casido and Declan Rice had seasons back in 100 plus Shivram. I don't think Rice, personally, Declan Rice was a chance to me. Don't get me wrong, Conference League, but it was a Conference League. Let's be clear on that. Declan Rice needed to make a step up, right? Was he £100 million player? Declan Rice for me is one of the funny ones, right? Because have have Arsenal won the league? Nope. Have Arsenal won a cup? Nope. So is he worth 100 million? You can argue yes. I'm not going to disagree with Declan Rice being like 100 million, but you can almost judge it after the event. I mean, West Ham player, Declan Rice is a very good player, but is he worth 100 million? I think time will tell on that one. He could be, but I don't know. Declan Rice, Casido, is he worth 100 and whatever they paid for him? Well, they've won a Club World Cup. They've not done particularly well in the league. Again, you can argue. Are these really like £100 million players? I don't know. They're both risks. They've both worked out reasonably well. Yeah, I don't know. I think you could sort of swing either way on them ones. It's always option B, C, or D. Yeah, Danny, mate, I don't even think we've got an option B or C. Even they thought Pedro was worth 19 stone for 55. Shivram, I don't disagree, mate. They never thought Pedro was worth 90, mate. Never. Chelsea buy good, but Chelsea are not that good to get him for half price. They're not. It was never worth that, mate. The thing about Pedro was there was never going to be a bidding war for him, right? There was never going to be a bidding war for Pedro. So Chelsea are not that good to get a player worth 90 down to 55. So nah. As long as Nana is a keeper, even with Baleba will struggle. Maguire, Casemiro, this is Abdul. You just you just summed it up there, mate. And let's go back to what Amrin said as well, right? So he was talking about the season. He was talking about, are you happy with the squad? And he's saying, we've trained well. Yeah, they've had a pre-season, but he's always ifs and buts, right? And as you said there, we've got Anana and goal. And he was asked a direct question about Anana, and he said, Anana's still part of the squad. He's going to be in goal. He's here. It's the same old story every season, right? You look at pre-season, they've all come out, and this is what happens every single season, right? This is a thing that makes me laugh, right? The same cycle repeats itself, right? So what happens is we're fed that we're going to buy a player. So Cunha, good start to the window. In Burmo, waste a couple of weeks, waste 7 weeks, right? Waste that. Then we're coming towards the halfway point of the window. Shesko, we sort of forced into doing that deal, right? So we did that deal. So we've got a good front three. I'm not going to argue that. But we do realise we haven't sold a single player. Sharon says, if Amrin with this team can't reach 5th or 6th, he doesn't deserve more back in at Max, Humland and the goalkeeper. Will be Amrin if you finish below 6 and restart again. I don't disagree. I don't disagree with you, Shivram. I don't disagree with you saying that. I disagree with that, if that makes sense. If he finishes 6th with this team, it's a miracle. Like, if he doesn't get anyone else, it's a miracle. If Amrin, I'm telling you now, my friend, to go from 15th to 6th with the majority of the same team, we've only got 3 new players. Liverpool going to have 7 new players. City have got 5 or 6. Arsenal have got 4 or 5. If we finish 6th with this team, Amrin's worked. He is, honestly, I'd give him as much money as he likes. I don't think we realise, Shivram, and if you've watched the show before, which you have, buddy, and if you look at the things I've said with this team, and I'll stick on the same thing, is that this is a team that finished 15th last season. right? And you can shine it up in pre-season. We literally had 2 decent pre-season games against West Ham, who looked well and fit. Bournemouth side, was it Everton? No, the Bournemouth side, no, Everton, and was it West Ham? I can't remember now which way around it was. Um, and we looked fine just because they looked unfit. We're still playing Luke Shaw. I mean, Maguire's still getting a game. Like, it is Casemiro still playing. Like, what are we doing? If Liv won the league with Graven, I mean, who is Gravenberg? True, but they also had Salah. I can't remember that Liverpool team that won the league, but you know, Klopp, when he came in, basically bought a whole new squad. Um, but the problem that what's Danny said, the squad 10th, it takes 1 or 2 injuries. Danny, mate, you're right, 100% right, 100% right on that one. And to Shivram's point, I think on the team as well, right? Is that if Amorim, and now what's going to happen is what I didn't want to happen, is the knives are going to be out for him already. They're going to be out because we've got this team, and we know this team is a mentality-wise. They're posting winning shot, they're winning teams again in like the training sessions. They're doing all that crap again. It's the same cycle. We are 1 or 2 injuries away. Imagine Cunha gets injured, right? Shesko gets injured. Who's going to play up front? Who's going to play number 10? So Fernandes will play number 10. Who's going to go up top? You know, Shiram. So we have Mbeumo, Cunha, Bruno, Shesko, Ahmad more than they have Graven, Hertz, Marino, Pedro, and all. I'm not going to disagree with you in terms of players, but the team, taking Mbeumo and Cunha and Shesko out, right? Let's think about this. I'll tell you what we do. Let's quickly go through the team, right? Let's see what we think the lineup will be on Sunday, right? And then let's see what we think is going to happen, right? So I think the team on Sunday will be Onana in goal. I think he'll go Yoro. I think he'll go De Ligt, and I think he'll go Luke Shaw. Right? I think he'll go for those 3. And I think he'll go Delay. And I think he'll go Ahmad. No, scratch that. I think he'll go Dorgu on the left, Dallo on the right. He'll go Ugarte as a number 6. He'll go Bruno in the 8. Cunha, Mason Mount. No, I think he'll go Mount, Cunha, and Mbeumo. Shesko might not even play. That's what I think he's going to do. Then if Shesko does play, I think he's going to play Mount. I think he'll play Mount. I think he'll play Luke Shaw. But back to your point of those players, what you've got to understand, or you don't have to, it's your opinion, is that Bruno, Ahmad played in a team that finished 15th and had a worse season. Bruno was captain. Bruno, for me, I tell you where I am with Fernandes, right, is that last season he was abysmal. He was abysmal last season. Without him, without his goals, right, I'm not going to dispute people that say without his goals we could have finished God knows where, right? But the eye test doesn't lie in big games. In big games, he was awful. That final was, if that final was under Fergie, he'd be gone. He would have been gone last season. If Bruno had played that way, he'd be gone already. Bruno would have been gone last season on the back of that final, just by being the captain. He was captain of this team, and that's what he did last season. So Fernandes for me is that Amorim's going to live and die on what he's going to do. You know, he's going to live and die on the signings that this club hasn't made for him. They've given him an excuse already. He's already started coming out with his excuses about they should be finishing in European places, but it's going to be a hard season. But he hasn't got a full team. But teams have strengthened, right? So what? We're supposedly the biggest club, one of the biggest clubs in the world, and yet he's making excuses. No United coach should be coming out making excuses. If you go and read what he's actually said in the conference, it slightly pissed me off, because no manager of this club should be talking like that. He should be talking that we're going to go to Europe, we're going for Champions League, we're going for Europe, we're going for cups. And he's already coming out with these excuses of, oh, it's going to be a difficult season, people are strengthened, alluding to the fact that he's not got a full squad. It's not good enough. The problem is with him as well is that he's very young. I think he's very naive, and I think he's very, very young, and I still don't think he's quite grasped what this club is just yet. You can't say things like that. You have to come out and you say, well, we're gonna win the league. We're not going to win the league. We're going to finish 5th. No, we're not. But if the moment you start giving these players an excuse, as we saw last season, they will down tools. Sharon Bruno at 8 is unimaginable. I guess your conspiracy about him leaving next season will be true. He's just here for the transition. I don't know, mate. I think if we have another bad season, I think he's gone. I think he needs to go. He should have gone. In my opinion, Bruno should have gone. But again, I can't be like a hypocrite. He brings goals. He does bring goals. He brings goals. He brings assists. You look at him in the pre-season. Look at. He scored the most goals. It's frustrating. But until we get a better squad, So where do I think we'll finish this season? I think we finish right now. I think we finish between 8th and 10th. I think we finish 8th. I think 8th would be a good start. I think we're gonna have a very up and down season. Do we have a settled team? Well, we've got a settled, back 7, or whatever. Is it back 7? Back 8. So we've got Rajat Harmer friend. So we've got, from keeper to centre backs to wing backs to the 2 pivots. That's the same team that we've had for the whole of last season. So we're going to see what Amrin's about this season. This is what we're going to see. Okay. So what I don't want to hear from Amarin, and I'll be consistent with this. The moment he says he's happy with the squad, the moment he says he's had a pre-season, the moment that he says that I'm good to go with this squad, the excuses are over for me. He needs. I don't want him sacked, but the knives are going to be out for him. The knives are going to be out, and he's not going to do himself any favours by playing Dalot, by playing Luke Shaw. Fernandes is the one for me. He's going to live and die on that decision. I think Fernandes is the one that, if he doesn't step up and be a captain this season, then I think United is unstoppable this time round. Vixen, are you? United is unstoppable this time round. I respect your opinion. Welcome to the show, my friend. I wish I had your optimism. I think we're very stoppable. I think that we are going to have a very up and down season. I think we may catch Arsenal cold. We may beat them. We may draw. And then we've got Fulham. I can see us getting beat. I can see us having a very up and down season. And then what's going to happen? The knives are going to be out. There's going to be turmoil. There's a demonstration planned as well for Sunday. Conspiracy theory was the Baleba stuff all to do with that, to stop the march. There's a march going to happen. You know, if what this club needs to get, if they lose to Arsenal, okay, it's going to be riots. I'm telling you, there's going to be absolute chaos. And what they'll do is they'll panic buy again. They'll go and panic buy. They'll absolutely go and panic buy. I can see them going back in for Baleba. I don't necessarily think the Baleba thing is totally 100% dead. I think it's 95% dead. But if we get beat against Arsenal badly, he'll start Shaw, Dalot, Casemiro, bench and Burma, Ahmad and Ugarte. He'll do it. Chevram, I think he'll do Shaw. I'm convinced of that. I'm convinced. If what Amrin can control is the players he starts. You know, I don't blame the players that are here on him, but I do blame him for the selection of the players. If he starts Luke Shaw, Dalot, Casemiro, red flag for me, mate. I don't think he starts Casemiro. I don't think he can afford to. If he starts Casemiro over Ugarte, he's done. He's done already. He's done. And I've said that as well. Historically, if you go back over the streams, I can't remember which one is a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, Mason Mount start. I think Mason Mount. I think if Mason Mount starts, if Shesko doesn't. So if Shesko doesn't start, Mason Mount starts, and he'll go Cunha up front, Mount and Burmo. That's what I think he does. But if Shesko starts, I think Mason Mount will be off the bench unless Mbermo is unfit. So if I had to, if a gun was to my head, I'd say he's gonna start Mason Mount, isn't he? I think he'll go. Will he play Shesko? I think he'll go Cunha up front, Mason Mount, and Burmo, Ugarte and Fernandez in the pivot. I think he will start Luke Shaw. Dalot will start. Dorgu will start. He'll go Delict and Yoro and Anana. Yeah, Danny, I agree with you, mate. I agree. If we don't get Danny B, what I want to see now, because maybe we don't get any more signings in, the team is on Amarin. I want to see him go for it. I want to see Shesko starting. I want to see Mbermo starting. I want to see Ahmad starting. I don't want to see Luke Shaw. Chevram says it's going to be counter-attack football on our Amarin style. Same old rhetoric. I agree with you, Chevram. I 100% agree with you. He's going to go because our players are limited and because they're low IQ players. We've still got the same team that's been here for 3-4 years. He has to play that style. So we'll go defensive wing back, so there'll almost be a left and a right back. He'll play back five and he'll counter. That is exactly what we'll do. He'll counter attack. We'll go basic counter, and Arsenal have got a settled team. Gyökeres is in that team, mate. He's a good player, mate. You know, Anana's not going to instill confidence either, right? So Arsenal, I think it's going to be a counter-attacking game. You're right. I mean, we might hit them on the counter. We might get lucky. We might catch them cold. But if we catch an Arsenal, if we catch a looped up, ready to go Arsenal, mate, it's going to be I don't even want to think about it. United will be 10. Roger, I don't disagree with you, mate. I think between 8th and 10th, anything bigger than that, mate, is a miracle. Dennis says no miracles to be expected. The defence and midfield are the same. They're poor and lack of intensity and physicality. Intelligent comment, mate. Summed up perfectly well. I think you summed it up perfectly well. I think you're right. 100% right. Yeah, you are, mate. If we had to play counter, Rashid Ghana would be ideal. Why couldn't it Burma? And so much money spent. It's because I think the problem is, right, Amrin has a system in mind, in his players, in his system. And I think he generally thought, and he was told that we're going to get players in. and we haven't had that. So he's almost got a quarter of a system in place, trying to make these players. You know, Rashford, yeah, but without sounding rude, and I don't wish to be rude to anybody, but Rashford wasn't it, mate. Rashford played counter-attacking football and still failed. He had one good season, right? He had one good season playing Ollie ball, I think it was, and even then, just before Ollie got sacked, he was still playing counter-attack FC, and he was awful then. You know, he was awful for Ten Hag. Ten Hag reverted to counter-attack football, and he was awful as well. You know, so and Garnacho, as he's proven, he's a petulant, sport little brat, and I'm glad he's gone. You know, so I get it from his perspective. He wanted to play football. He wasn't happy, but Garnacho for me, I'm glad he's gone. I just, you know, again, the two number 10s. Did he have to spend? Well, I don't understand. This is why I think they've gone from Cunha and Mbeumo, right? This is why I think they've done it. It's because they think that if you get 15 goals, right? So we only scored, what, 40 odd goals last season, 50 goals. So I think what they think is that if you get Cunha, arguably third or fourth best player in the league, right? Mbeumo, second best player in the league. You look at their assists, you look at their goals. Okay, I really think that they think if you bring them into the team, they're going to get the same numbers into this team, and that's why they've gone for them. Because I think they think that they're going to bring in those same numbers into the team. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. You know, Cunha's not going to get the same numbers. He's not certainly not going to get the same goal numbers, and Burmo's not going to get the same goal numbers either. He might get the same assists, but he's not going to get the same goal numbers. So they've signed these two players, and they're not going to get the same goal numbers. They're just not. So I don't get why, as you say, why you wouldn't do one number 10, maybe get a cheaper number 10 if you feel like you need to. But you got Mason Mount, you got Bruno. You know, why wouldn't you go get a centre midfielder? So I do agree with you. I think in isolation they're good signings, right? I can't argue with the signings, but I can't understand what tactically he's going to do with that, right? I have said I think it will be transformative. I think that attitude will be fantastic in the team. Shesko's going to be great as well. But tactically, I don't know why we've got two expensive number 10s. Amorim must know something, and I just don't get it. Just can't accept the fact that we are not better than Tottenham, Newcastle, Aston Villa. Yeah. Do you know what? Spurs have done some good business. Thomas Frank, you know, he's a cracking coach. You know, they've improved. They're not going to be 16th next season. You know, Newcastle, Champions League, that may drop them off next season. They're going to be tired. So I think Champions League for them is going to hurt them. But again, you're right. Aston Villa haven't done a lot of business. I think Aston Villa are going to drop away next season. I don't think we're going to be wrong on that one. I think they're going to drop out. Bournemouth, again, I don't know what the final score is on that. If you can let me know what the score is on that. Again, they're a really well-drilled machine. You know, all good teams. So do you think Ahmad, Bruno, Shesko, Cunha and Burma can start together in an Amorim system? If can't start together, then Amorim system is failing. It's not his system. I don't blame his system. I blame the players. If the players' attitudes are right, I don't blame the players. But some players can't play that system. It's a very difficult system to play. So I don't think it's the system. I think it's the players. He needs a certain type of players. You know, Ineos brought him in without giving him players. So I don't think it's the players. I think I don't think it's the system. It's the wrong players in that system. And I think I think it's a mixture. I think it's still the knock-on effect of players, attitudes, but also it's the wrong system for these players as well. So, you know, I don't think it's a failure, but Amorim needs to do something. He can't keep saying that it's his system. You know, he has to learn as a coach to tailor his system. I don't want him to go back to a 4. I want him to play his system. But how's he going to do that? And that's what he needs to do as a coach. Let's say, Chris C, welcome to the chat, my friend. Let's be honest, Amrin is under massive pressure to perform. No excuses now. A lot of money spent. Bad start, and Amrin sat before Christmas. Chris C, see, I wanted a comment like that because I disagree. I don't disagree with it. I don't agree with it in terms of I want him sacked. I do think he's got an excuse, but I think you're right. I do think you're right. Where I think he's got an excuse, and what I always try to do in here is I'll give you my reasoning as to what, but I don't disagree with you. Right? So the reason I think he's got an excuse, but I don't want him to have an excuse, is these are not his players. He's got 4 of his own players, right? That's not enough. And this board have not given him players. They have let him down massively. But I can't be an excuse anymore. Like, it can't be. Like, I don't. If Amrin gets sacked, mate, and you're right, a lot of money has been spent. You know, if you're spending 200 million, north of 200 million, you've got to expect 4th or 5th, mate. I agree with you 100%. But if Amrin gets sacked, then my conscience is not clear because we haven't given him the players. But you're right, though. You know, people on here right now who's saying Amrin is under pressure, 100%. The knives are out already. The knives are out because they want to see this club fail, and they want to see us again change the coach, change the manager. But Amrin needs to coach now. You know, he accepted this job. He's going to have to coach these players, and you're right, mate. I predicted, and I'm not going to be a hypocrite, and I'm going to stand on this. I predicted 8 from 8. And if he's going to get sacked, the Anfield game in October could be the one. Maybe that is a bit too soon, but you know, if he gets 8 from 8 and he has a couple of smackings, you know, he's not new anymore, is he? You know, he hasn't got his team. But he's got to learn. You know, he's already trying to temper what he's doing. You know, if you look at the conference and the things that he said, he's already coming up with an excuse. He can't anymore. He can't. They're not going to wash. You know, he's going to have to start coaching these players. You know, he's got 1 game a week. As you say, he's had a load of money spent on him. Pressure is going to be huge, and maybe Ineos did hard. You know, maybe I've got to accept this. Okay, maybe I've got to accept this. Maybe that Amrin is not the guy. Maybe he's not the guy. You know, maybe he's not. I want him to be the guy. I like him as a coach, but is he the guy? I just don't know. But again, if he's not, Ineos and the Football Inside. So this is what's happening. As I said before, let's have a look. 4-2. It went 2-2, then Chiesa, and then Salah and 4-2. Yeah. Sure, terrible. If the system isn't working, then why not change it to suit the players? Chris C, you know, the problem is, Chris, with that, and again, it's a valid opinion, right? But how many coaches have we had to change the system for? When are we going to go as a club? We're not dictated to by the players. The players have to come in and perform to what the manager said. But if the club are not prepared to buy the players, then you need a coach who can adapt a system. I think we need to persist with the system, but if Amrin wants to keep his job, you know, the problem is for me, Chris, is that I don't dispute that. I think Amrin as a coach needs more. He needs more of a playbook than what he's got, right? But we keep doing this. We keep pandering to players. Well, what are we going to keep doing? Playing, you know, their strengths are a counter-attacking team. Then what we should have done is basically hired a counter-attacking coach, but we didn't. So Amrin needs to do something, whether or not it's a slight tweak in the system, like as you say, but it shouldn't be to suit players. It should be this player should now learn to play his system, or they go. But there's going to be something, isn't there, that's going to have to give. And whether it's players, and we can talk about those players as well. So I want to say something about the players as well. That, yeah, I Amrin right now, the conference and the Baleba thing, and the conference, the presser that he did, that has not filled me with confidence. Let's just put it that way. Let's just say we're 10th by December. Are we better or worse? By Christmas we have be 6th or 8th. 10th by Christmas is okay with me. I just don't want to sack him just yet. We give him the season. I think if we're 15th again by Christmas time, he's gone. He's gone again. He's gone. If we're abysmal by Christmas, then he has to go. Chrissy says, if United get humbled by Arsenal on the first day, then right into the wall. Chris summed it up, mate. If he gets turned over by Arsenal badly, then that's the beginning of the end for me. The only way he comes back from that is then if he goes and wins 5 games on the bounce. If Arsenal come to United and we play like we have been, which I suspect we will, then the writing's on the wall. Like, the writing is already on the wall, and then I don't know what we do. Then the next phase of this club is done then, isn't it? It's done. Absolutely done. So let's see what Sunday brings. But that's the problem. The wheel keeps rotating. Let's say we give this manager 5 years at least. He won't get 5 years, will he? What we've got to be clear on as a club and as a fan base is this: every season I demand first place, right? I demand first place. I demand Champions League, because that's what the standard has to be. We've got to keep that standard, right? We've got to. That's not. I'm not so naive to say that and believe it, but that's the standard that we've got to keep, right? If we keep finishing 15th or 10th, there's no club in the world of our stature who's going to keep a coach. Should he be given that time? Yes, he should be given that time, but he won't be, and that's the problem. Is the cycle is we've got a team, a mishmash of players. Imagine, right? We've spent 200 million on 3 players. We sack him. Ten Hag had 300 million in like the previous season. He's been sacked. So the new guy then will not only have the old players who finished 15th and have been here and injury prone and awful. He's then going to have a bunch of 10 old players that he may not like. He's going to have a bunch of Amrin players, and he may play a completely different system. They've been trying to learn this Amrin 3-2-2-2-1 system. It will be a nightmare. It'll be an absolute nightmare. So again, that will set us back another 3 years, and then we would have wasted. And then you think about it, right? Over 2 summers, last season and this season, we would have wasted £500 million. Like, and then we've got to then consider Sancho. So let's talk about that right for a sec. Sancho. So again, I put it on here. Breaking news that Sancho's going to go to Roma. Roma have put in an offer. There's a bid in there for £20 million, and an obligation to buy with a loan. Sancho ain't going. He's not going, is he? Why would Sancho want to help us out? Why would Sancho take a pay cut? Why would he let us have 20 million when he leaves for free next season and he'll get paid that? Someone will pay him 10 million signing on fee, 50 million signing on fee, and give him 150k a week. Sancho ain't going anywhere. Rashford's on loan. Rashford will probably come back this season. I don't think he's had the best start. There's already stories from Lineker and all that. Like, I'm not going to go into all that, but there's stories from him about that today. So that's not going down too well already. Haaland still here. AC Milan. I think he will still go there. There's an offer there, but Fulham have now come in with an offer as well. So there's that. Anthony's still here. Garnacho's still here. Malice's still here. So this team, for all talk of bomb squads and like Amarin kicking players out and signing players and whatever, we've not sold a single player. We've got the same team that we've got the same team, exactly the same team that finished 15th, and we're expecting Amarin to work miracles with 3 players. It is just we've all been spun around again, and this is what I did say weeks and weeks ago. Be careful about what this club does. I've been watching football for 38 years. I've been watching these clowns for the last however many years. Which Sharon said, by the way, why do you think we would not go for Humland at the start? He knows the system, experience, what's wrong. Amarin himself has no belief in. I don't know. He wanted Quenda. He thought he was going to get Quenda, and Chelsea went and got him. You're right. Why hasn't he gone for his sporting players? Like, Humland knows the system. You are spot on. Why wouldn't Humland come into this team? What is it about his previous players that he doesn't like? Spot on. I don't know. So I think this is where we are. I think this window, if we're looking at it right this second, I think it's been, as a whole of a window, I think it's been less than average. I think the players we've signed have been good. I think the players we signed, if you're looking at the players as an individual, is he slow or less physical? I think he's going to be less. I think he's going to be less physical, to be honest, because he plays in the Portuguese league. So Gyökeres will take time, I think, but the difference with Gyökeres, he's played in the Championship and he's played in the Premier League, so he knows what it's about, and he's come here as a different player, but he's going to find it hard. He's going to find it hard. I think Humland will come in and he'll find it difficult. I do think he'll find it hard. It's not as fast, as intense as the Premier League. Maybe we panic by Humland. I don't know. If we get a Humland for around 50 million, then that's a good deal. I think if we can salvage this season with a good midfield player. Yeah, agreed. He thinks that the pace intensity quality is too much for the majority of supporting squad, but I think Humland might work, but wouldn't anything over. I think Humland's going to be more like a Casemiro type in terms of price. I think they'll panic buy him. I think you're right. I don't think he's worth 45 plus 10 at most. You think about it, right? So Humland, in terms of age-wise, he's 26, I think it is. Sort of deal is basically a deal that Ineos wouldn't want to do. It's a Casemiro type of deal. 70 million for Casemiro. You take that money and we've burnt it. You take that money and you bin it. Humland's the same in some respects. He's younger, but you take that money and what you're saying is he's got to come here and he's got to do something quick. And I just don't see it myself. Arsenal's going to be interesting. I don't know if we're going to get any. I just don't know. I genuinely, and I mean this, I'm still shocked about the Baleba stuff. I'm genuinely shocked. I was convinced that he was going to come. I genuinely now just. What I think is sad for me, ultimately, what's sad for me, is that a couple of weeks ago, when we were talking about this, and we were talking about, and it was taking us 7 weeks to sign, and in Burmo, and when a lot of people were saying, and correctly so, that Ineos had a plan, and Ineos were trying to do bits and pieces, and etc. And I was saying, like, be careful of the spin. Ornstein come out as well. People missed this. Ornstein even come out and said this weeks and weeks ago, that we need to be careful. We need to, be realistic, because we may not get all of the signings. And I was of the opinion, Ineos, be careful of the spin. I don't think they're doing a great job. I don't think they're going to be great. And I've even said, I want to be right on this. This. I've been consistent on that. The spin. Martin faces, we can't be any worse than last season. I think United will be better this season. Martin, I think you're right, mate. I think we're going to be better. But what's better? Like, the fact that you're saying it, not because you're saying it, but because, again, we've spoken about this in here as well, is we're now relying on like optimism. Like, instead of us saying, Martin, yeah, we're going to finish fourth or fifth. Like, and even I'm saying like the same as you, Martin. Like, yeah, we're going to be better, but like it can't be any worse. It's going to be okay. We shouldn't be saying that. We shouldn't be saying, yeah, like, and this is me saying it as well, by the way. Like, yeah, we can't be any worse than last season. We're going to be better. Like, have you seen the black kit? Like, like the black kit's really good, isn't it? Like, that's the best thing we've done so far this season is like the black kit. Like, obviously, Shesko and that is good, but instead of us buying, like, you look at Liverpool. Let me give you an example, right? They've gone out and they've just gone and bought players that they want to buy, right? Because they won the league and they want to continue to win it. Like, Ekatike scored again today. Like, they are making sure that they're gonna be there or thereabouts. To beat Bournemouth on the first day of the season, that is a good result. Like, they're no mug team. That's a tricky opener, and they're gonna beat them because they've gone and bought a team. And we're sat here, and including me, Martin, and saying, yeah, we're gonna have an okay season. It can't be any worse than last season, can it? Like, and it's it's. Ruben seems to have the team a lot fitter. Martin is back now, and 3 new men in. Martin, mate, I again, mate, you're saying, like, I can't disagree with what you're saying, but it's like we're saying these things, aren't we? Like, the team looks fitter. Like, we've got 3 new signings, and we've got players coming back. And I promise you, I'm not taking the piss at you, but this is what I've sort of seen around, right? And it's like, instead of us saying, yeah, as bad as we were last season, we've got 3 new. I need to say this. One of them, we needed 2 strikers, but we're going to get rid of a striker. So we needed a striker. Comes back. Let's be realistic. What's he going to do? He's been injured for the best part of 2 years. He's not going to come back into this squad and cut up trees. I think Martinez is possibly finished. Like, you don't come back from being out. He's been out for 2 years. Like, Martinez is not it anymore. I would sell him. We need a new centre back. Like, Luke Shaw's still playing. Like, it's just the same old again, mate. And of course, it's not your fault at all. And like, I agree with you. I want this place back, but it's just not new, is it? It's awful. Believe it's too expensive. We need an English player. I don't think we do, mate. I mean, I don't. If you show me an English player that's as good as it, like the Bellinghams, they've gone. I mean, have a go. Let's have a look. Wharton, I don't disagree with that, mate, but he's not a number 6. He's just not. He's a bit too slow, and he's not physical enough. But he's still a good player. But he's not. He's number 8. He's not a 6. If we ever go for a player that the price goes up 50%, at least that's up. Exactly. But now it's going to go up, isn't it? Again, my stuff for me. So yeah, sorry about that. The Wi-Fi is not great because I'm away, so I'm kind of like having to do it this way. So Yeah. Thank you for watching, guys. It means a lot to me. If anything else does break on signings and stuff, I will obviously come back onto the stream and let you guys know what's happening. But other than that, guys, thank you for watching. I'll see you very, very soon. Let's hope that we can do some good stuff in the next coming days or weeks. And if anything does break, of course, I'll be back on, and I'll see you very, very soon. Take care and have a good rest of the evening, day, whatever you do. And I'll see you very soon. Take care.